My top 6, yeah, that's right, holiday books. I have a small stack of holiday books that I love so much. If you're a fellow historical fiction fan, then you can probably guess which one will probably be at the top of my list. But since this is my first holiday season on BookTube, I thought that I would come on and tell you my favorite top holiday fiction recommendations. Since reading became a big part of my life again as an adult, I have read probably around 45 Christmas books, holiday books, and have some more still on my TBR, and have kind of honed down a list that I feel like is substantial and high quality for people who don't typically read romance. Because let's face it, a lot of holiday books are rom-coms, heavy on the romance or heavy on the family/faith element, and I'm not a big fan of either. So it took me a while to kind of find exactly what I was looking for, but these are the 6 books that I love more than any and would reread again in a heartbeat, and some I have already reread. If we have not yet met, my name is Carly. I read and review lots of books, mostly historical fiction with some women's fiction and literary fiction as well. If that sounds like your type of book, then I would encourage you to subscribe and stay tuned. We're building a community here. I am loving this space and just the creative spark that it's given me this year. Anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about the books. As always, every book that we discuss is going to be linked below in the caption. Let's start with my all-time favorite. My all-time favorite and most highly recommended book on this list. Like, what book do I need you to read if you have not yet read this? Is Last Christmas in Paris by Hazel Gaynor and Heather Webb, a dynamic duo in my opinion. I have read other books that they co-authored and enjoyed those. I have read books that they have solo authored and loved those. In fact, Hazel Gaynor's new book is one of my top reads of 2025. But this book I read a couple years ago. I buddy read this with a fellow bookstagrammer, and I was not expecting the gut punch of this book. This rocked my world, had me in tears, had me glued to the book, unable to put it down, as was my fellow buddy reader. It's so good. It's about 3 friends, and 2 of those friends have a very special dynamic and the potential to be more than friends. One is a young woman, one is a young man. The young man has recently been conscripted and is going into the military service to serve on the front line in support of the UK. They joke and laugh, like most people did at the start of World War I, that this war is going to be over by the end of the year. We'll see each other in Paris. That did not happen. And this is the story of how that friendship progressed, changed, developed over the course of the war via letters. This is an epistolary novel, which I believe this may have been my first epistolary read as an adult in my rereading phase, which began in like late 2020. I have since read a few others and really appreciate this book in particular with regard to the epistolary novel. It has these beautiful letters. The young woman in the book is a journalist, so some of her pieces, which are published in the book, we get to read. It is just so beautifully written. It's so heartfelt. And although I don't remember all the details of this book and need to reread it, I remember being so captivated by this book and by the words and the phrasing and the context of the times and what it meant to be a female journalist at the time and kind of breaking through that glass ceiling, but also their romance and their relationship. So there is also a dual timeline. The young man is years later in Paris. That whole dynamic around time and storytelling is just, it's so stunning. And if you have not read this book, I highly, highly, highly recommend this book. It is just the perfect combination of historical fiction, romance, and holiday. As compared to other holiday books that I read, this is probably light on the holiday. I don't recall it being like overtly Christmassy, but it has that vibe. So again, this book, I love it so much. Let me read you the synopsis. Christmas time in Paris, Thomas Harding travels to the City of Lights, a packet of cherished letters in hand. Letters that tell a story of love and loss, friendship and family, and the innocent hopes of a generation devastated by war. As he reads the letters one more time, Tom is transported back to 1914 and the sunlit August day when Evie Elliott waves goodbye to him and her brother Will as they head to the Western Front. All believe the war will be over by Christmas when the trio plan to reunite and celebrate the holiday among the romantic cafes of Paris. But it's not to be. As months slip into years, Tom's and Evie's lives become bound together by the letters and telegrams, notes and stories that travel between them, from the front line in France to a quiet suburb of London. But as their friendship flourishes, there is far more than words held between the pages of Tom's and Evie's letters. Now, decades later, Thomas finds himself again in his beloved Paris, determined to fulfill a last promise and to lay to rest the ghost of the past. But one final letter is waiting for him. So good. I mean, there's like everything from postcards to telegrams. It's just really, really special. And I would say because of the format, I would highly recommend that you read this with your eyes. I originally read an ebook copy and enjoyed that. I have since purchased a physical copy to own and love forever. I don't know that it would come across the same way in an audiobook format. So that's just my 2 cents. I want to hear from you. Have you read this? Kate Quinn blurbed it. And if Kate Quinn blurbed it, you know I'm going to read it. I can't say enough about this beautiful book. It is heartfelt. It is moving. I feel like I learned something. I got that historical fiction itch scratched in this because of the World War II elements and the female journalist element. I loved it. And I think that if you have not read this and you have ever read and loved anything else that I've ever recommended, read this book. Okay, now for my second favorite book on this list, and this is an uber personal recommendation. I'm going to tell you why, but I think that anyone who shares a love of the Chronicles of Narnia needs to read this book. I'm talking about Once Upon a Wardrobe by Patty Callahan Henry, whose work I love. I depend on Patty Callahan Henry for a book that is going to just tug at my heartstrings, but yet feel like a warm hug. I love her books. I find that they're always uplifting. They have challenging aspects to them, grief and loss elements typically, family dynamic issues, that sort of thing. But they always have a historical element as well as that heartfelt, just warm hug. This one also has a Christmassy vibe, and I loved that. My mother and I would read together every night. From toddler to age approximately 7, when my younger brother was born, she would read to me every night, or we would read together as I grew older. One of the things that I remember about that time is reading the Chronicles of Narnia together. She read all of the books in the series to me, and I loved them as a child. I reread them as a teenager. I reread them as a young adult. Can I tell you about any of them? Probably not. But I love that series because of that special memory with my mom. And when I opened this up and was instantly transported back to that time in my life via the references to Narnia and to C.S. Lewis, it was just so intense. I read this before my mother passed. What it would be like to read this now, I don't know that my heart can take it. I was just so enamored with this book and what it was able to do for me in terms of evoke emotions and memories that I had not experienced or felt in a long time. It's just really, really something special and stunning. I love the sibling story in this book. That's one of the things that I really enjoyed the most. I'm a sucker for a sibling story. This is about a young woman and her younger brother who is ill. and she will do anything to make him happy, to see a smile on his face, and to protect him. One of the things that he wants more than anything is to know if Narnia is real. And she is going to university where C.S. Lewis is an instructor or professor, and she gets to meet him and starts to ask him about the origins of Narnia, how the story came to be, and in turn gets to ask him the question that her brother is so desperate to know, is it real? He escapes into the world of Narnia to feel better, to feel more like a young child rather than a sick boy. It's just so special. It's so special. It brought tears to my eyes and had me in my feels. Let me read you the synopsis really quickly. Meg's Devonshire is brilliant with numbers and equations, on a scholarship at Oxford, and dreams of solving the greatest mysteries of physics. She prefers the dependability of facts, except for one. The younger brother she loves with all her heart doesn't have long to live. When George becomes captivated by a brand new book called The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and begs her to find out where Narnia came from, there's no way she can refuse. Despite her timidity about approaching the famous author, Meg soon finds herself taking tea with the Oxford Don and his own brother, imploring them for answers. What she receives instead are more stories. Stories of Jack Lewis's life, which she takes home to George. Why won't Mr. Lewis tell her plainly what George wants to know? The answer will reveal to Meg's many truths that science and math cannot. And the gift she thought she was giving to her brother, the story behind Narnia, turns out to be his gift to her. Instead, hope. I haven't read Becoming Mrs. Lewis yet, and I think I need to do that. I don't know if it has that kind of same holiday vibe that this one does. This one has scenes that take place during Christmas, and there's very much a Christmas holiday tie-in to this book. So this scratched that itch, but also packed this huge punch of just love and family and hope and loss and grief and all those things. It definitely felt more substantial than the typical holiday fiction. This book brought all those nostalgic feelings right here, just like right under the surface. And I loved it. Another book that I absolutely loved, probably because of both my affection for Charles Dickens and for A Christmas Carol, is Mr. Dickens and His Carol. This is a fictionalized account of Charles Dickens during the period that he is finding his inspiration for A Christmas Carol. It has a magical realism element that I thought was really, really charming because of the tie-in with A Christmas Carol, obviously. It was also just a real fun time to be in that Dickensian London setting, to read about Dickens and his family life, even a fictionalized account of that, and to draw the parallels between A Christmas Carol and his own life. Also really enjoyed the way that Silva portrayed his writer's block and his inability to come up with anything remotely holiday-ish. He himself was in almost like a Grinch-like state and was experiencing some severe writer's block and just couldn't find that creative spark to come up with a holiday story that was heartfelt and meaningful to him. I read it the same year that I reread A Christmas Carol, and it was the perfect accompaniment. Perfect. I just felt so charmed by it. I would say if you're going to reread A Christmas Carol, which I highly recommend, I would read this first and then read A Christmas Carol. When I read this, I read it right after I read A Christmas Carol. And I just remember reading this and thinking, man, it would have been really fun to read this first. Let me read you the synopsis. A story with the wit of Shakespeare and love and the evergreen heart of A Christmas Carol. Charles Dickens is not feeling the Christmas spirit. His newest book is an utter flop. The critics have turned against him, relatives near and far hound him for money. But when his publishers try to blackmail him into writing a Christmas book, he refuses, and a serious bout of writer's block sets in. Seeking inspiration on long night walks through London, Dickens meets the mysterious Eleanor Lovejoy, who might just be the muse he needs. As Dickens' deadline and creditors close in, Eleanor propels him on a Scrooge-like journey that tests everything he believes about generosity, friendship, ambition, and love. The story he writes will change Christmas forever. I just love it so much. If I didn't have a zillion other things to read this December, I might reread Mr. Dickens and His Carol and A Christmas Carol. I think we all need that heartwarming big hug right now that I know this book will give. Meet Me Under the Mistletoe by Jenny Bayliss. I'm pretty sure this was the first Jenny Bayliss book that I ever read, and I have since read quite a few others. She is my favorite contemporary Christmas holiday author. Every year she puts out a new book, and they're all really terrific. If you love themes like found family or challenging family dynamics, grief, loss, sibling relationships and dynamics, and a little bit of romance. There's also always in her books, there's a community vibe. So they're set in either these small towns or villages that come together in support of something or have dynamic relationships with each other within that community. I really loved this one because of the found family, the friendship elements of this story, as well as the family of origin dynamics that happened in this story. The love story was kind of second fiddle, at least in my opinion. I would say this is about equal parts found family and family dynamics and relationship or love story. And because of that, it felt more like a woman's fiction than a romance novel. There's also a bookish element. The main character owns a bookshop in London. I just love that. Let me read you the synopsis. A city bookshop owner heads to the English countryside for a holiday reunion, only to face her childhood enemy. Also, enemies to lovers, thank you, love you, my favorite. Eleanor Noel, Nori for short, is quite content running her secondhand bookshop in London. Forever torn between her working class upbringing and her classmates' extravagant lifestyle at the posh private school she attended on scholarship, Nori has finally figured out how to keep both at equal distance. So when two of her oldest friends invite their whole gang to spend the time leading up to their wedding together at the castle near their old school, Nori must prepare herself for an emotionally complicated few days. The reunion brings back fond memories, but also requires Nori to dodge an ill-advised former fling. When she falls quite literally into the arms of Isaac, the castle's head gardener, who has nothing but contempt for the snobby prep school kids, the attraction between them is undeniable. And as Nori spends more time with Isaac during the wedding festivities, she finds herself falling hard for the boy she used to consider an enemy. Nori and Isaac explore their common ground, but pressures mount on all sides, and Nori must decide what kind of life she wants to live and what sort of love is worth the risk. I definitely think this is my favorite of her books. A second favorite would be A December to Remember because of the sister story in this, but I think that this has a few more elements that made it just a smidge more charming. We have a family of origin story happening here in a small town village. We have a found family friendship story from childhood to adulthood. We have the enemies to lovers relationship developing, and we have a charming English castle. Like, what more do you need? What more do you need? I mean, it really is so super charming. I will read anything she writes. If you've never read a Jenny Bayliss novel, I would say start here. I'm going to surprise everyone and say there is a rom-com that I really, really, really loved because it made me laugh out loud so much. I could not talk about this book. The Christmas Wish by Lindsay Kelk. Laughed hysterically hard at this book. I loved the British humor that she brought to this book. I loved the second chance romance elements. The time slip, kind of Groundhog Day aspect of this book was hysterically portrayed by the author. Family of origin dynamics in this book and the conflict within that family of origin is so good. So good. I could not put this book down. I think I read it in 2 sittings, less than 48 hours, and just chuckled the entire time. I have not read anything else that Lindsay has written, and that is sad because they're on my TBR. I just haven't gotten around to them. I'm always a little leery or apprehensive of romance novels. I think what worked about this one is that family of origin, that family conflict that happens in this book. It is just hysterically funny. It reminded me of watching National Lampoons and just kind of the chaos that goes along with that, or Scrooged. That was a great one too. Loved those movies so much. There's a grumpy sunshine element to it. It's so good. Let me read you the synopsis. Newly single lawyer Gwen Baker is hoping that a family Christmas, countryside, a mountain of food, and festive films will solve the sting of her career hanging by a thread and her heart being trampled on. Because everyone else has their life sorted. Even Dev, her boy next door crush, is now a tall, dark, and handsome stranger with a fiancé. She can't help wishing her future was clearer. Then Gwen wakes up to discover it's Christmas Day all over again. Like Groundhog Day, but with eggnog. And family arguments on repeat. As she figures out how to escape her own particular Christmas hell, Dev is the one bright spot. He might be all grown up, but underneath he's just as kind and funny as she remembers. Maybe, just maybe, her heart can be mended after all. But how do you fall in love with someone who can't remember you from one day to the next? So it had that kind of 50 First Dates element, which is a movie that I absolutely adored. It was just so charming. Will this be for everyone? Probably not. It's super snarky and has just a lot of volatility with regard to the family of origin, but it's still super charming. So it just reminds me of some of those Christmas films that you watch with the kind of quirky family situations, and they all figure it out in the end. And this felt very much like that. I could not, in good conscience, talk about holiday books without talking about A Christmas Carol. I am a Dickens fan, always have been, always will be. I remember reading Dickens as a teenager and just really falling in love with his ability to suck you in to a place and time and feel like you're walking alongside a character. I had that same response to A Christmas Carol as well as his other works. And recently, as an adult, reread A Christmas Carol and just fell even more in love. The story within this story is so good. The message obviously is about being generative, giving back, doing good in this life. And that is a message that I think we all need right now. Every year, my boyfriend insists on rewatching the film, the 1984 film with George C. Scott. That is his favorite edition of that film. The actual book is freaking terrific. And if you've never taken the time to read it, I highly recommend. To me, this story, whether it's the book or the films, embodies what I think about when I think about the spirit of the holidays. And reading the original just really kind of drives the point home even more for me. I think there's something special about Dickens and his way of crafting characters that are so memorable and so relatable. I'm researching, maybe because I'm like, maybe I need to listen to this one again just to get in the spirit of Christmas. And I'm reading about the Tim Curry audiobook version. Provides a performance described as having a deliciously dark tone that brings out the gothic aspects of the story. I might need to do that one. Of course, it's on Audible. So they're having a sale right now. It's 99 cents per month for the first 3 months plus a $20 credit. I'm tempted to sign up again. I had canceled my Audible subscription some time ago. I'm tempted. I'm tempted to get this because I have a feeling it's one that I might love so much that I want to reread it and re-experience it whenever. And that's what I did. I previously was subscribed to Audible and purchased every single Outlander on audio so that I could have them forever and always, or as long as Audible's around, in the format that I love the most. So I may do that and get this Tim Curry version. Oh, let's get a preview.
Old Marley was as dead as a doornail. Mind, I don't mean to say that I know of my own knowledge what there is particularly dead about a doornail. I might have been inclined myself to regard a coffin nail as the deadest piece of ironmongery in the trade.
I might have to do it. I'll report back. So those are the 6 holiday books that I highly recommend. If you haven't read them yet, please do so and let me know what you think. Each of them has something unique, and I think they kind of represent me very well as a reader. Heavy on the historical, a little romance and fun, lots of found family or family dynamics, and a little bit of heart. Pretty much that's me. What books are on your favorite holiday reading list? I want to know.